Hi friends, I'm Janet Williams. We at Women of Grace are dedicated to the authentic Catholic spiritual formation of women. It is to this end that we offer you Grace Under Fire to expose the darkness of false spiritualities and contemporary trends.
Hello, I'm Sue Brinkman, Director of New Age Research at Women of Grace. Believe it or not, some people actually believe that Christmas trees were condemned in the Bible. In fact, it's a pretty common assertion around this time of year. But is there any merit at all to this claim? Nope. This popular notion refers to a passage in Jeremiah where he says, "Thus says the Lord, learn not the customs of the nations and have no fear of the signs of the heavens, though the nations fear them. For the cult idols of the nations are nothing, wood cut from the forest, wrought by craftsmen, adorned with silver and gold." However, this passage refers to a custom in the days of Jeremiah for people to cut down trees and branches and fashion them into gods, then decorate them with ornaments, and then afterward they would worship them. It is also true that the Romans decorated their temples with evergreen trees, and ancient inhabitants of northern Europe, they would cut evergreen trees and plant them in boxes inside their homes in the wintertime. But the notion of the Christmas tree that adorns the homes of Christians today has actually very Catholic roots. Catholic Answers explains it. He says, the first Christmas tree is attributed to the great apostle to the Germans, Saint Boniface, who died in 754. He's sometimes called the greatest missionary since St. Paul. Boniface was a great bishop, a tremendous evangelizer, who was the first person to use a Christmas tree to celebrate the birth of Christ. And that event came about one Christmas Eve when he led a small group of missionaries to visit the inhabitants of the pagan village of Geismar. And it was the dead of winter at the time, and the town's inhabitants were gathered around a huge oak tree known as the Thunder Oak, which was dedicated to the god Thor. And as Catholic Answers explains, this annual event of worship centered on sacrificing a human, usually a small child, to the pagan god. Boniface desired to convert the village by destroying the Thunder Oak, which the pagans had previously boasted the god of Boniface could not destroy. So he gathered a few of his companions and he journeyed to Geismar. Now his fellow missionaries were afraid that the Germans might kill them, but Boniface steadied their nerves, and when they reached the village, he told his shivering companions, he said, "Here is the Thunder Oak, and here the cross of Christ shall break the hammer of the false god Thor." As it turned out, they had arrived at the time of sacrifice, but their presence interrupted the ritual. Boniface promptly grabbed an axe and chopped down the oak tree, leaving the town's inhabitants astounded. He then began to preach the gospel and used a little fir tree that was standing behind the fallen oak as a tool of evangelization. "This little tree," he said, "a young child of the forest, shall be your holy tree tonight. It is the wood of peace. It is the sign of an endless life, for its leaves are evergreen. See how it points up toward heaven. Let this be called the tree of the Christ child. Gather about it, not in the wild wood, but in your own homes. There it will shelter no deeds of blood, but loving gifts and rites of kindness." Now the people were so awed by the event, and certainly with the supernatural courage of this holy bishop, that they were converted and baptized. The Catholic tradition of using an evergreen tree to celebrate the birth of Jesus gradually spread throughout Germany. Now, according to History.com, by the 16th century, devout German Christians began to bring trees into their home and decorate them. But this tradition didn't catch on in America right away because the Puritans regarded it as a pagan concept. However, that all changed when the very popular Queen Victoria and Prince Albert appeared in a sketch in the Illustrated London News in 1846 that depicted them standing around a decorated Christmas tree with their children. Now, being so popular with their subjects, the custom became immediately fashionable, and before long, Christmas trees were sprouting up across Europe and eventually the United States. As Catholic Answers concludes, although there are many stories, legends, and myths surrounding the founding of the Christmas tree, including the claim that the custom originated with Martin Luther, there is only one story rooted in a real person and a real event: Boniface, converter of the Germans, who destroyed Thor's mighty oak. So there you have it. O Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. For more information, visit womenofgrace.com.
If you would like more information on how you can participate in a Women of Grace study, contact us at info@womenofgrace.com. Listen to Grace Under Fire every Wacky Wednesday on Women of Grace Live at 11 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.